A good Wednesday, everyone. Roger Hill with the VELCO Weather Hazards Outlook. First of all, in the center of the country, you can see a big gyre here. This is an upper level low that's cut off from the jet stream, both the subtropical jet as well as the northern branch of the jet stream, the polar branch, not interfering. This is just lollygagging very slowly. Cold air wrapped around on its northern and western periphery, warm air, introduction of milder temperatures and conditions into the northeast United States. Easily explained with the temperatures. You can see temperatures basically in the 40s and 50s, some 50s making it toward Vermont. Probably not going to reach us, but it's tempering any of the colder air that's just lurking a little bit to the north of our region in Canada. Looking at wind gusts, not a whole lot going on there. In fact, I don't see any real issues with the wind. So all good news there, but just a lot of kind of drizzly, low yield rainfall, and that's what's on its way here, working of course up the Appalachians and the eastern seaboard and into southeastern Canada eventually, putting a halt on it about its northern extent right here where there is a frontal boundary. This frontal boundary is going to stay up here and become basically geostationary. And also what we're looking at here is, of course, some rain. Looking at the models, the European on the left, we have the GFS ensemble on the right. It's all liquid, but it's eventually going to transition over to a little bit of wet snowfall. And that's going to try to make some inroads here. Some colder air kind of combines coming in out of the northwest and mostly into this tail end of this upper level low. So all of that taking place not until the time we get into probably Friday afternoon. You can see a little bit of spotty mixed precipitation types across parts of Maine. Looks like that's going to stay out of our hair at least through Friday afternoon. However, Friday afternoon we're going to start to see a transition to a little bit of wet snowflake action. Not being picked up in the ensemble with a GFS yet, but you can see that kind of slow transition, especially as we get into the day on Saturday, and it looks like that's going to continue into the day on Sunday, and then kind of getting cut back. And then that's sort of a weak trough kind of lingers, a little bit of Great Lakes moisture. Overall, not indicated anything that's going to be major, but some off and on snow flurry or snow shower activity will be with us going through the weekend and into the day on Monday. Beyond the period, a little ridge of higher pressure builds in for Tuesday, and then we're right back at potentially another shot of colder air working in. This is almost zonal, though, the northern branch of the jet stream, but it is enough to make some influx of colder air and keep precipitation types falling in the form of snow as we head into the mid and late part of next week. Although no big snowstorms in sight, no big precipitation makers in sight. Kind of a split flow with the subtropical branch, the El Nino branch to the south, the sort of tweak of temperature associated with the northern polar branch, and it does look like this tweaks downward over time and levels off and plateaus and keeps us basically in the mode for a little more snow than, say, any liquid precipitation that's going to be further off to our south. So for this outlook period, this is the GFS ensemble centered on the grid point of Montpelier. You can see 3-hourly QPF here is just forever going, and not a whole lot of changes. But overall precipitation does not accrue very rapidly, so we're looking at pretty much less than 1 inch amounts through this entire event, and continuing to level off and see even less than normal precipitation. In terms of precipitation type, it looks like this, and you can see that it's primarily rain, a little bit of introduction to snow. That all takes place either Friday night or into the day on Saturday, and then predominantly snow thereafter. Looking at the 850 hectopascal temperatures associated about the top of Mount Mansfield, you're looking at the 0-degree isotherm. Anything warmer than that is going to fall in the form of rain. Anything colder than that is going to fall as snowflakes in the mountains and then down to the intermediate terrain and eventually the valley floors. And you can see that temperatures progressively get colder over time once we head into the new year. Weather Prediction Center, 7-day total QPF or accumulated rainfall or precipitation, both rain and snow. We're about flirting here with the 1-inch line, a little bit to the south, ½ inch to cutting across northern parts of Vermont, 1/4 of an inch to St. Lawrence River Valley. And you can see up here It's cold enough that not going to see a lot in the way of precip, and just 1/100th of an inch. In between, flyover country, not a whole lot going on. It's going to be all out on the west coast. That develops with a system coming in up from off the Pacific coast. And then, of course, the southeastern United States up the eastern seaboard, and these rainy weather systems with this slow moving upper level low. That's the main effects associated with that. And it looks like we're going to be in for somewhere between about 1/2 inch and worst case scenario around 1 inch in southern parts of Vermont, but I think that's a little bit high as well. And pretty much like you might think, you're looking at the temperature anomalies here across North America. A little colder off to the south, a little bit warmer now, an influx coming in the west coast, but mainly we're looking at this anomalous warmth all the way up from the north slope of Alaska through all of Canada, the Yukon, Northwest Territories, and right down into Florida, with a little colder shot again remaining to the south and west of us. The 5-day meteorological output statistics of high temperatures shows that colder than normal conditions with the 0 to green line, colder than normal across the south. This is very El Nino looking, and warmer than normal conditions up across Canada and the northern tier regions. About 3 days later, not a whole lot of change. Still colder to the south and east, a little bit of an influx of colder air eventually, but still holding warm across the northern tier regions. Very El Nino looking. And of course, these warmer temperatures have been driving the lack of snow, shall we say, and we've really leveled off since going through what looks like the mid and end of November. Conditions have almost gone horizontal. A little bit of an uptick in the early part of December, and then we've leveled off again. And right now we are in the outlier of the least amount of snow for the northern hemisphere as indicated in a long, long time. What does that look like in terms of snow extent anomaly? Looks like this. Well below normal through the months of September into October. A little bit of an uptick in November, and we're kind of holding our own, but a little bit of a downtick. And it really is, that's the northern hemisphere, but if you look at North America, you can really see that we only had near normal snowfall here going into the late part of October, portion of basically early November, mid-November. A little bit of an uptick there at the end, and then drastically downward is what it's showing. And ending on this note, you can see our drab weather with nothing but rain pushing away and headed toward the northeast and northern New England, adjacent southeastern Canada. One of the things that's interesting in a very mature cutoff area of low pressure is that the dry air is wrapped completely around it, and it's a very mature, kind of a typical mature storm. That's it from here. Roger Hill, Wuthering Heights. Thanks for watching.